Today we're talking about good engagement rings, good rings in general to wear for both men and women. And we're going to discuss things a jeweler won't tell you and advice that I have as someone with well over 30 years since I was a child, um, hunting, collecting, um, and buying gemstones and precious metals, all those things above, going to the mines, going to the markets, both opened and closed, and buying stuff and finding pieces. Um, the first thing uh, that I think is an issue today is the actual metal. Um, Gold is very expensive. Silver is likely to become more expensive again. They're going to stay up because of all of the infrastructure building and the way that our currency is being devalued so that they don't have to raise taxes or cut defense spending. So, because of that, there's different options. I'm a fan of finding the right stone and going with something like stainless steel in a setting that can be removed, and with a stainless steel, some can be adjusted and some can't, that can either have an added adjuster, which is the less expensive way to do it, it's something you can DIY, or which would be like, um, you know, an insert like that you can put inside of it. Because if you do that, something like that, the metal cost is lower. You can spend more money on the stone, and it can be swapped out for, for gold, or or platinum. Any kind of metal you want in the future. Even just silver, and then you're sourcing the right stone, because metals are malleable, and there's plenty in the system. There's only so many material, actual chemical material for the actual stones. So you can't always get the stone you want, but at some point you might be able to get the metal if you got the cash. There's a lot of options, like with your diamonds. You either have like something like this that has lab created diamonds that I bought once at $49 on sale at Walmart. Very rare clearance option, but I watch everything. Or you have something that uses like technologies like HPHT, heat and pressure treat, to actually treat the diamonds the same way, similar technology to these, to create some lab created diamonds. And these methods are less known, but they can turn like a natural brown diamond into like a blue green or a white, or and that they can clean it up, or even a dirty one, and that is going to have a lower drop in the resale value as of today than, say, if you went to a fracture filled diamond or a lab created diamond, because it's just a treatment. There's also a treatment that GE uses with electricity through a company that is also a good buy. There's some colors are more expensive, like your blue greens, like that, and that one was that color. Or you have like your blacks, which can be less expensive if it's not a carbonado. But the big thing is, really, I think, in this era, is not falling as much into the marketing, if people involved are okay with that, and going with something that has a much longer history and much more rarity that can hold up, like a ruby. Who wouldn't want that? It's tougher. You have hardness, but you have toughness. And toughness is what determines if something cracks or chips or scratches. It's the biggest threat. So if you have something with a certain amount of hardness, like a hardness over a 6, but it's tough, like sapphire and ruby are tougher than a diamond. Jade is the toughest. So you have things that are jade, like something like this. And jade comes in all kinds of colors, not just green. It comes in lavender. It comes in a more of a pinkish, and then it goes into a red, um, yellow, orange, and it can just be absolutely stunning in all those colors, even whitish tinged jade. Um, And it's a very tough material. So you could even get like jade wedding bands. Uh, they cannot be adjusted. That is the huge downfall to a straight stone thing. But you could get the stone like this, and then you could put sapphires, or or even moissanite on the side, and then and if you get a natural one, the price can be very high, but it would be a very long term. You can get treated, but it's not going to have the strength that the natural stone has. And then there's things with like some of these things like jade, some of these things like sapphire and ruby, is they have cabochons, and the cabochon can still be a very durable material, but it's less money, and it's a natural thing. A lot of people want something out of emotion. They want turquoise, they want opals, and the trouble with that is it's just not a very durable material. It's not going to last very long at all, and it's nice for periodic wear. But with sapphire, you have all the color, every color of the rainbow, because a ruby is made of corundum too, and you have ones like this that have a color change or a color shift. You have all kinds of options. I'm not a big emerald fan, and I'm really big fan of like oval or marquee cut, and you can see rubies come in all kinds of size and color, and they can be quite valuable depending on the size. And the stars, I'm a big fan of asteration in sapphire and ruby, because uh, they have to cut it on the hexagon. We'll talk more about the crystal later, but there's ways that someone have a much higher probability of seeing that they have a natural stone, because if there's certain things about corundum. But the trouble with emeralds is, like, this is a Muzo piece of rough. As you can see, that it's almost certainly fake if it doesn't have visible inclusion, or it's been highly treated. And all those, even with the hardness, all of those fissures and inclusions can cause easy chipping or cracking or splitting. And it's actually very rare. When people say some gems aren't rare, they're valuable, it's different if something can be cut like this at its higher quality. That's exceptionally rare. But with cuts, there's all kinds of. I think fantasy cut, if it's set right in a way that protects it, like this is a fantasy cut of a stone, like that peridot, can absolutely be incredible. And then there's things like garnet. I'm not talking using red garnet, but you have like Zavarites, like this, and they're just absolutely stunning and electric. You have incredible stones. You have your Paraíba tourmaline. Tourmaline comes in a lot of colors. You have the electric blue, very expensive, but there's things you can do with the smaller stones to make it look more interesting. You have your watermelon tourmalines, which is multicolor, and if it's cut right, you can do interesting things. You have your imperial topazes. Now, these things are all stones that are like a 7.5 and harder, and they have some toughness to them, and they have a lot of potential to be used instead of a diamond. And I use, when I look at stones and stuff, I bring a UV black light loupe with an LCD setting, because and then I also have a black light. I want it to be bright so that I can see inside, and I examine from the edges of the stone for imperfections. But this one I found because I was shopping at a place going out of business. It was a coin shop that buys and sells things, and they happened to have it, and they probably assumed, well, it must be a lab created stone. Well, but using the loupe, I could see from the type of fluorescence that it had boron and aluminum, and that the blue diamond was actually a natural diamond. And then it all turned out to be that way. But learning things, and these stone videos will be later on, can really enrich your life and provide things. But I'm a big fan of different types of designs too. Like, imagine this. So most people think of a oval cut or a marquee cut, and they think like going this way. But if you go this way, the stone looks bigger, and now all of a sudden you have a much more impressive ring. And because they're not round brilliant cut, you often get more space for the carat. so you can create a much larger ring. Those are little tricks. And when you're looking, a lot of times, one of the things I don't like about CZ is, I'll show you. Like, look at this. This is already cloudy, and it's not cloudy because of inclusion. It's cloudy because of scratching. I had to look everywhere for something that was CZ because I just don't. But then, you know, it just doesn't. Like, if I put this next to a, you know, I don't know how the light does this, but you can see how this looks more like, and if you look at this and broadly, I look at an actual diamond sometime. This one's even included a little bit and look better than the CZ. But if you look in natural light, natural stones like your corundum, they usually have like a silky, what I describe as a silky, almost soap, but it can still be completely transparent, even with fire type surface, softer surface. And yet the facets are very sharp where they've been cut in the spots. CZ does not have that surface. It may have the sharper facets, but there's all these things that you begin to notice. And so when you pick quality, jade doesn't do that because it's just a softer looking thing, unless you cut it to look like an emerald. But you get this you can get very good quality, and you can get something for a very good price that would be, you know, very unique. I mean, look at sapphire like this. And the color, I'm showing big examples so you can see well on camera. And if you want to go natural, you can go natural and go lower quality and look very unique. You have all of these options at your thing, and I just don't know why some people are still stuck on the diamond fad. Especially because a lot of these colored stones have more value now, and they're still going up in value, and diamonds more recently has had some trouble. And you know, you have all this. I mean, even with your peridot, which has some potential, you kind of can see why it's potentially a really good option. Like that big peridot that I showed earlier, it's you have all these beautiful stones, and the price is still undervalued on a lot of these, and you can still find some of these stones in larger sizes and different varieties. So I would think outside the box is what I'm saying, but make sure that you have flexibility to move the stone into another ring, and that the price that you're getting is very good for the market, but it's legitimate and real, and to go with things that provide the most bang for the buck in the design that you pick. And that's going to impress everyone more. It's going to last than if it's durable material, or it should ideally, hopefully. And that you're going to get a decent price with something that might appreciate in value. Another thing is if you choose pave stones that are very well priced, that have potential to rise in value, the pave, because they've been calibrated, are more valuable than individual stone. Because it's a collection. You know, a jeweler, if something is rare and the jeweler has to they need to find the stones calibrated in that. And if they're very durable stones, they typically don't chip. So there's a lot of things that can go into the future value of a piece. And you know, it's just a lot to consider, but it's a good idea. And if you wanted to go a simple solitaire, you know, pick a really nice sized elegant stone. Like this is an Australian, has some slight bicolor to it, sapphire, and something that still helps it be something important and special. These are things that I would notice. In men's rings, men can't have dainty little thin rings. They have to have either well-arranged pave stones, or they have to have stones with some kind of size to them. You know, sometimes it could be something like this. It's got to, at least, if you're going to have one solitaire stone, it's got to be probably at least as big as that, like on the star stone. because if you go smaller, it looks more like a woman's solitaire engagement ring. Well, hope everyone has a good day.